Hey guys, Oscar Combs here with the ISO 9001 group with another episode of the ISO Show. In today's episode, we're going to talk about poor process approach and risk-based thinking and how it almost led to a presidential assassination. On July the 13th, 2024, former President Trump was speaking at a rally in Pennsylvania. And there's just so many process failures and incompetency here that it's just overwhelming and too much to even list here. But what are the takeaways can we learn from an ISO 9001 perspective? Let's talk about it. All right, guys, so let's talk about this assassination attempt. Just a high-level overview from my perspective in regards to what was going on that day. On July 13th, I was just sitting in a hotel because we had been displaced from our home because of Hurricane Beryl that came in on July the 8th. And so I was just watching CNN and watching former President Donald Trump giving a speech in Pennsylvania at a rally. Now, to my amazement, I heard what I thought were some gunshots, and then all I saw was President Trump grab his right ear, and then he dug down behind his lectern. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, because you only read about these things. Of course, we've heard of other assassinations in U.S. history, but this one I was witnessing myself in real time. And all I saw was President Trump, he dug down. And then I saw this whole swarm of the Secret Service men coming to surround him and trying to, I guess, block different angles of possible gunshots. And I did see, I was just thinking, man, I pray that he's okay, and I pray that the assailant missed. But then I did see him stand up, which was good to see, but then I saw blood trickling from the right side of his face, so that was concerning. But I did see him kind of pump his fist, and he was saying fight, fight, so that kind of gave a signal that he was okay, but we still saw that blood, and that was alarming. I know for myself and for many Americans. It should be for any American. But then what was surprising is what happened after that was, okay, President Donald Trump, they took him away to the hospital, got him treated. But then we started to hear about, for one, the former fire chief that was killed in the event. So he actually got killed, and there were two other people who were critically injured during this assassination attempt. And then it just kept getting worse, where I started to hear about all of these failures from the local police department, from the federal government, Secret Service personnel. It was just amazing how this occurred. And for me, and for all of us in any organization, this should really signal the importance of process approach and risk-based thinking, and ensuring that people are competent in our organizations, right? There was so many examples of incompetence in this series of events that it was just amazing. And this is going on not only in this event, this is going on in many organizations in many departments in the federal government. So this is just something that really just played out on national TV. So let's talk about the ISO 9001 process approach and risk-based thinking. And if you go to ISO 9001 2015, you will be able to see what I'm talking about. Now, I have about 29 years of experience in dealing with ISO 9001. And for the life of me, people still think that ISO 9001 is a standard for manufacturing or a standard for field service companies. A lot of organizations don't understand that ISO 9001 is, of course, it's called a quality management system standard, but it's really much bigger than quality. In my professional opinion, it's more of what I would refer to as a business management system. And in this case, I would actually refer to it, and I'm going to make this recommendation because I'm part of the committee that writes the ISO 9001 standard, that it becomes an organizational management system. See, because we have to understand that we all are part of an organization, whether it's, some of us call our entities a company, some of us call it a business, some of us call it an organization, but all of those, a business, a company, an entity, can be rolled into the category of an organization. An organization, by definition, is an organized body of people with a particular purpose, especially in business, society, or an association. All right, so everything falls into an organization, which is why I believe that we need to think of this ISO 9001 standard much broader than just quality. It's much broader than that. It's bigger than that. The Secret Service and all other departments of the government are organizations. Your company is an organization, right? So we have to keep that in mind. So that's why some of these concepts of ISO 9001 apply in many, many cases. Talks about the process approach. ISO 9001 talks about process approach. Process approach summed up, it enables an organization to plan its processes and the interactions of processes. That's very key. For one, planning the process. And then we need to understand that processes are interacting with each other, right? Inputs and outputs are interacting. And if the interactions are not flowing properly, we will have process failure. Another concept, Plan, Do, Check, Act, PDCA, means that we should plan what we are wanting to accomplish through our process and procedures. And then we do it, we implement it, and then people are doing it. And then we need to check to make sure that the processes and procedures are actually working. And then we act. So based upon what we find, we need to take action, whether that's corrective action or what we call now risk-based thinking, going back in and adjusting the process. If any of those are failing, we can have a process failure that could lead to something like this. Maybe we're not having presidential assassinations in our companies, but we're having product failures, or we could have a failure where it causes someone to have a fatality, right? Or suffer injury from our product or our service. So that would be kind of the equivalent of this incident. And then risk-based thinking. So risk-based thinking is the concept of an organization to determine the factors that could cause the processes. Now, all those processes that we planned and that we talked about in PDCA and in the process approach, how they could be negatively impacted, right? If people deviate from them or if they're not followed. And so we're trying to think about as these processes are interacting from input to outputs, what are the things that could go wrong, such as a presidential assassination attempt in this case. All right, so we must understand that processes and procedures, they only work if, for one, you have them. So you got to have them. You got to have processes and procedures. And then we have to test them, make sure that they're working. And then we need to implement them and train people on them. And then we need to make sure people are following those processes and procedures. Now, from the investigation of this incident, there's several major instances of process failures, poor risk-based thinking, and man, it's just terrible incompetence. It's just blatant incompetence and negligence on several levels, which led to ultimately this man losing his life, 2 people critically injured, and then the former president almost killed. So let's talk about some of these process failures, poor risk-based thinking, incompetence, and negligence. Now, to me, in my professional opinion, the biggest failure is that gunman was allowed to climb up a building that was 147 yards away from the president, Donald Trump, with a direct shot at his head. You guys, you can look at the pictures. It's a direct shot. Now, how does someone have an opportunity to climb up the building and do that and get in position at 5 p.m.? 5 p.m., guys, this all went down. The shots rang out at 6:11 p.m. But at 5 p.m., before the attempt, the young man was seen casing out the buildings. That's just mind-boggling to me. They saw a suspicious man casing out the buildings. At 5:20, local law enforcement took notice of the man. At 5:20, local law enforcement knew of this suspicious individual, and they saw him with a backpack and a rangefinder. Let me say that again. The local law enforcement saw him with a backpack and a rangefinder. Wow, amazing. The local law enforcement radioed their concerns. They didn't do anything. Remember, I said processes don't work if people are not doing something. They radioed their concern and they snapped a photo of the individual, but then the man vanished. This image of this individual was circulated to the officers throughout, that were on site that day. At 5:40, 20 minutes later, the local law enforcement spots that same individual again. It's amazing. About 20 minutes before the shooting, second time they spotted him. He's been able to case out buildings. He's been able to carry a backpack with a rangefinder, and they see him a third time. Wow. Amazing. And then at 6:02, President Trump takes the stage, and at 6:09, witnesses, they report seeing a man climb onto the roof of a 1-story building closest to the stage. There were several buildings. He was able to had time enough to select the building that was closest to the stage. He went up, set up his AR rifle on the rooftop, and he was ready. And at 6:11, he was shooting. Amazing. Guys, process approach, risk-based thinking could have prevented this. The assailant was spotted at 5 p.m. casing the buildings. For the life of me, I don't understand if you have local law enforcement, you have the federal Secret Service protecting President Trump, so they even have more training than the local law enforcement. You have this big crowd of people, and you see someone walking around. I saw the video. You can see it. It's on the internet. This guy's literally walking around. You can see him looking up at all the buildings and walking around the perimeter of the building, looking up. I saw this. I don't have to be a trained police officer or a Secret Service agent to understand that that's a risk right there. Now, guys, the only action that's worse than the wrong action is taking no action. These guys didn't do anything. They saw this. When local law enforcement noticed the man at 5:20 with the backpack, remember he had a backpack, a range finder. Man, they should have apprehended him, questioned him. I've seen law enforcement stop just random people walking, asking them questions. Oh, you look suspicious, or why are you in this neighborhood? But you see someone with a backpack, a range finder, walking around where the president is doing a speech with thousands of people, and you don't stop this guy. You just radio it in, you circulate the pictures. Wow. According to risk-based thinking, it's clear that this is a risk. According to risk-based thinking, it's clear that this is a risk. Why didn't they do anything? Especially, this is a president, a former president, and you don't do anything. Guys, just a little foresight can be 2020. We have to stop this whole, well, hindsight is 2020. I mean, this is like glaring right in your face. That anyone with, I'm going to have to say, even common sense would have seen this. You don't need special training. There were people on social media with their own cameras on their phone pointing out this guy casing the buildings, climbing the building. Nothing was done. At 6:09, the assailant is seen climbing up the building. All these authorities around, snipers on other buildings, federal snipers from the Secret Service positioned on other buildings, police officers on the ground. What are they doing? What are you so distracted by that you're missing an assailant with a backpack and a rangefinder that's been seen casing buildings, and he has time to go climb a building? It's amazing. Talk about poor process. Talk about lack of risk-based thinking. Talk about incompetence. That's another part of ISO 9001, that people are competent, not just trained, because you could be trained and not competent. Competence is your ability to apply your training. Guys, I've seen law enforcement kill American citizens over way less, sitting in their car, walking down the street, holding a pot of boiling water and shot in the face. That's a video for another day. But how can this be where you see someone climbing up a building, president, thousands of people, and there's no action. This is the highest level of incompetence. This is the highest level of negligence. How many things in your organization, maybe, as I said, it's not a presidential assassination, but it could be, things costing your company lots of money. It could be injuring people. It could be supply chain interruptions. It could be your end product that you're making. Someone has an accident. Someone is killed. It doesn't have to be a presidential assassination. These concepts of process approach, risk-based thinking, ensuring that your employees are competent applies to all organizations. That's why I said ISO 9001 should really be called an organization management system. All right, guys. So in closing, let me know what you think about this assassination attempt and how ISO 9001 could have possibly helped prevent it. See, it's about prevention. All of this reacting, doing things after the fact, that's not what it's about. Risk-based thinking is about what can we assess? Can we assess the risk proactively, put things in place to prevent? How can the process approach help your organization? Are you having some significant process issues in your organization? Are you guys applying process approach, plan, do, check, act, risk-based thinking in your company? Let me know. Write a comment. I'd be very interested to know what's going on. Hey guys, if you want to be notified every time we drop a video, hit the notification button. I ask that you like our page, follow us, share this video. A lot of people still, as I mentioned, they don't make the connection of all of these principles and how it applies today in their organization and also in their day-to-day lives, guys. Oscar Combs here with the ISO 9001 group, helping organizations and people improve their operations and reduce their risk. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye now.